Okay, what's up in the next part now? So please go gauge your bearings to figure out what's going on. So here it is that I found myself and listen to the last part. I'm now at the back of this like taxi, this line, this one particular line going to one particular destination. I get to the back of the queue. All right, in the previous part I was talking about how the devil or some kind of an archetype of the devil in my dream led me to the back of this queue to basically wait to go to where this particular taxi was going. I'm at the back. All right, when I get to the back, I find this white girl that was on the same layer or trajectory as me, and prior to me leaving the organization or being booted out, she was engaged to be married. All right, we were more or less the same lives, same futures we were looking forward to, but there was a marked difference in the way that my life ended up and the way that her life ended up. And she was white and she was scantily clad. In this dream, she was barely dressed. What does she represent? The Lord is saying that there is such a, I believe what he was telling me with that dream is that there is such a prolific problem in the black community with witchcraft that black people cannot get to where they need to get, to a point where they can be fairly competitive or at least layered on the same platform with other people belonging to other races, especially within the white community, because black people are making sure that their own people cannot get to where they need to get. Abantu abamnyama, black people, they bewitch marriages, they bewitch careers, they bewitch. Yo guys, it's bad, right? I believe it's just as bad in the Indian community as it is in the black community, but witchcraft in this country is not nearly as bad in the white community as it is in the black and the Indian. That is a fact. White people rarely in this country bewitch each other, block each other from getting ahead. Now, black folk are constantly trying to use historical issues, systematic oppression and all that jazz to account for why white people are successful than us. In corporate, when we are all growing, we start out in the same places and then next thing they are skyrocketing. They always want to say there are inequalities. Well, this is Africa, and this is the one place where black people don't really get away very much with pulling the race card, and they have to face the fact that they are responsible for doing much of what is that they've done to themselves. I was a black girl that grew up in the latter part of apartheid, just like that white chick. She also grew up in the latter part of apartheid, was privileged, and I wasn't. And then we were equalized. We grew up, went to the same schools and everything, ended up in corporate South Africa, applied for the same, around the same age. We were doing the same job because we were similarly gifted, and we grew literally just like this with each other. I was at MTN for 5 years, and I met her at the beginning of my tenure there. She was also she was already working there when I started, and we were literally neck on neck, and we were neck on neck by the end of my everything. When people put a chocolate block on my life, we were still neck on neck, except she had advanced past me in one area, and that area was romance. There is a man in her life that decided that he's going to make an honest woman out of her. He proposed marriage, and she was about to get married. So already by the time that I lost everything materially, she was already advancing beyond me, at least in the area of romance, because her community of people don't go out of their way to block each other's prospects, So I was already suffocating. And when I started doing this video, I spoke about how it is that I wish I could do some kind of a longitudinal study over the lifetime of my children, since I've seen it with myself, where I measure nurture over nature, because naturally I'm gifted just like that girl at my organization was gifted, and the two of us were able to grow at the same pace with all the factors dumped into this bucket all across the country, be it regulation, like black economic empowerment, me being black, me being her being white, all these things. We had the same factors, same environmental factors, same natural factors, and up to a certain place we also had the same environmental factors sort of kind of afflicting us, but then not afflicting us but facing us. But now the environmental factors in my life changed, where it is that my ecosystem, my environment, in other words my fellow blacks, decided that I'm not going to get married. They decided that I'm not going to progress in my career. They blocked me, and as a result this chick skyrocketed beyond me, and I got stagnated by my own people. So black people who keep on pulling the race card, the issue in this dream, the only thing that was relevant or important to highlight about race in my dream was the fact that this girl was a Caucasian and I'm black. We had, however, the exact same trajectory, and we were growing at the exact same pace. We were given the same opportunities. We were never thwarted because the one was white or the other was black. We grew the same way. We had career equality. me and this girl. But I was the one that was knocked out of the way, and she continued to go and live out in the sunset. Her scant outfit is showing me basically what black people in this country are doing is imploding. They're causing themselves to suffocate and die off. But the reaction by white people is, again, complacency. They're just standing back doing nothing. But in so standing back and doing nothing, in feeling like at least it's not me, like, you know, that mentality that ignorance is bliss, and so far as I'm from a distance and I haven't done anything racist, I'm safe. That complacency is what's killing white people in this country. Hence she was scantily clad, and hence she was also in the same bereft, barren environment, unable to go home as me. Here was this girl that I was separated from because my career there was lost a crater in the center of, and I was no longer to be found in her radius, and she continued to live her life out there. I bet today she's a doting mom and a doted over wife, but in the spirit we end up, according to God, in the exact same location, in the, like, literally we are all in the same rut. So the what is the word that I'm looking for? The sense of security, thank you, that white people in this country feel because they are not that defeatist against each other. They don't just keep knocking each other off the radar. They don't keep bewitching each other out of, like, corporate South Africa. Out. These are not the majority of the, anyway, like, largely. I know there are white people who are involved in witchcraft. I know this is true because my former church was full of them, okay? But they are not nearly as bad with it as black people are. They're not nearly as destructive of one another as black people are in this country. That's just a basic fact, okay? So them feeling then comfortable that at least they don't deliberately sabotage each other's lives has given them also a false sense of security, because I found myself in the exact same position as Ali, and Ali was worse off than me in the sense that she was scantily clad. She was underdressed. She was immodest. There was something nude about her, and that dress that she was wearing that was very short was black in color. She was in and of herself in a dark place. In and of herself, she was lost. But she was also naked in the sense that there was some shame on her that exceeds that of me, in that it is kind of shameful for you to not ignorantly but just complacently stand back and gaze upon travesty, because that's what white South Africa does. They watch black people knock each other out in cockpits, and they just stand back on some, I did not say a racist slur, I did not do anything that's gonna get me followed by the Black Lives Matter mob. I'm watching that bystander bias that they've got is their shame. Yes, thank you. That's why she was in a miniskirt. Her bystander, like, phenomenon, whatever you want to call it, is the very thing that is the shame of white people in this country. They have stood back and watched black people destroy each other. They've done nothing. They have not reached out a hand to help those that are afflicted by their own. If I personally, I remember there was this one recruitment agent that refused to help me because my former boss, who was a white lady, gave me a bad referral over the phone because she wanted me gone. She's the same woman I've spoken about before, who was so competitive with me that she used to take my work as her own and read off my PowerPoint presentations in a meeting, very embarrassingly so, without the context. I already gave you a story, a brief one at that, about that former boss of mine. Her on my CV as a reference to try and get another job after MTN, booted me out of the one that I had, and this recruitment agent called that boss, and that boss gave her a foul review about me. And she was a white lady, so too was my former boss. The recruitment agent is under the laws of this country, not consumer protection, but the labor laws of this country that protect a person from being reviled. She should have known that my boss was wrong based on her training and instruction, her education, and also the law of this country. We are not allowed basically, we're not even allowed to give a bad reference to prevent a person from getting a job, because it is a constitutional right in our country to earn a living, to make a living. So nobody can prevent a person from getting a job. No one. You can't thwart a person in this country from getting a job for reasons that historically used to thwart a person from getting a job. Reasons like you are listed on the credit bureau, reasons like your former employer, decided, like, I don't know, your former employer thinks that you are a poor performer. Everybody needs to have an it was all in an attempt to eradicate the unemployment in this country. So people need to still be able to get opportunities to work, even if their former companies didn't like them or whatever, and it has been entrenched in legislation. So that lady working within the labor relations industry, according to the LRA, boss did was illegal. My boss was ignorant, so she can be sort of kind of forgiven for being ignorant that what she did was illegal. But the recruitment agent, that was her field of study, her expertise. She ought to have known better. Instead, I got a dream that same night of my boss speaking to not my boss, sorry, but the recruitment agent lady speaking to my former boss, and saying to each other, us white girls, we gotta stick together. us white girls, we gotta stick together or they're gonna knock us out the market. Yeah, so essentially just based on my former boss's reviling of me, she ignored the law in this country, and based on the fact that my boss is a white girl, she was a white girl, while she wanted to, you know, relay my CV to some organization that I might get employed again, she based her decision on her white friend, and not even on the phone. That was also another white person. She based her decision on the whiteness and not so much even on the content of what it is that was spoken by my boss. So that is the disease of white people in this country. It is a fretfulness and a fear of being overwhelmed by these many black people that have been rescued from apartheid, and now since they out each other, even to a point where upon there being one of them really going through a lot and they need help, we're just going to stand back and do nothing. According to the Lord God Almighty, that is the shame on the white conglomerate in this country. It is what has made them naked, and it is what has made them pitiable and poor and unbelievable, essentially, at the great white throne judgment as to why they need to enter heaven. They're just as lost as all these witches all over the show that keep on bewitching one another, kicking each other to the curb in the black community. Next part.